Hello, and thank you for your interest in applying for an America 250 North Carolina grant application. This brief tutorial is meant to provide additional guidance as you work through your application. Detailed instructions are posted on the A250 website at america250.nc.gov/grants. Let's get started with your narrative. You have up to 1,500 words to make your case. Your project narrative is where you want to answer the basics: who, what, why, when, and how. Very succinctly, introduce your organization just as you would when you meet a new person. The review panel may or may not be familiar with your organization, so don't assume anything. Don't be shy about bragging. List all your achievements to give the review panel a sense of your qualifications. We want to know if your organization has done this type of work before. How many people do you typically engage? Also, you should note whether you are working solo or as part of a coalition. What is the problem you're trying to address or the void you are trying to fill? And then how will a grant award fill this void or solve this problem? How does this project fit into A250? If you are requesting funds for planning money, you should state that. However, planning funds does not give you a free range license. If you are requesting planning funds to create an exhibit or a mural that will be shaped by community input, for example, we still need to know about the general guidelines and themes you are imposing on your participants. And your end product will still need to connect to A250. Where will your project take place? If you are planning on installing waysides, we need to know where those signs will be installed and whether you have permission to install them. When will you accomplish your goal? If you are planning to engage students, we need to know if this is happening during the school year or whether it's a summer program. Can you get everything done within 12 months? And are your tasks realistic? Your next question deals with external review. In 250 words or less, give the review panel a sense of assurance that the content you are producing, whether it's an educational program, exhibit, mural, or something else, is historically accurate. When a project is funded, the America 250 NC Committee will be helping your project in a number of ways. Your project will get the use of the logo, your events will be included in the statewide event calendar, and your project will cite A250 North Carolina as a funder. For these reasons, the America 250 NC Committee cannot fund a project that is not grounded in factual history. The review panel will need to know that you have qualified staff working on this project and there is a process in place for review. You do not have to go through the committee's review process if you are using a pre-approved exhibit or lesson plans generated by the Department of Natural and Cultural Resources. However, if you generate new content, such as research, your work must be reviewed and approved by the America 250 North Carolina team for historical accuracy prior to publication. The section you'll need to answer is communications. How will you get the word out to ensure that your project will engage your target audience? If you're working with students, how will schools get your information out? If you are working with the general public, how will they know about your offering? Give the review panel a sense of confidence that once your proposal is funded, that you have a solid plan in place to engage your target audience and make sure you reach your numbers. The A250 committee requires that you must display the logo and cite them as a funder. Your event will be added to the event calendar. And this is the language that you will need to include in all your printed materials. The next section discusses project deliverables. This question is asking about results, and not just vague results, but specific results with a clear plan of how you are going to get those specific results. I wanted to take just a minute and review basic definitions of goals, objectives, and deliverables. A goal is what you want to do. It's the end result. Your goal is what you want to do to fix the problem you previously described. The objectives are your plan to hold you accountable. Objectives are how you're going to do it. You may have heard the acronym SMART before describing objectives, SMART objectives. It stands for specific, measurable, achievable, realistic, and time-bound. So your deliverables will be the tangible product that is produced as a result of your actions. So for example, exhibit panels. And finally, your impacts will measure the change, how many people you've reached, whether attitudes have changed. This should validate your objectives. So as an example, your A250 project might be a Revolutionary War themed summer camp. Your goal might be to educate middle students on colonial history. Your objective will be to create a 5-day summer camp for 30 6th through 8th grade students. These are specific, measurable, and time-bound. Your deliverable will be a curriculum. Your outcome might be improved understanding of the American Revolutionary War as measured by pre- and post-tests taken by students or surveys indicating increased understanding of and appreciation for American history. The next question is going to deal with measurements of success. The review panel wants to know how far your grant dollars are stretching and whether this is a worthwhile investment. Try to think of a way to quantify your successful results. If your project is a new exhibit, for example, how many people do you expect to attract based on similar exhibits you've hosted? How will you track visitation if your exhibit is free? If your project is a community mural and you aren't really sure how to quantify something like that, figure out the population of your town. Is your community a tourist destination? If so, connect with your local chamber of commerce to get a sense of how many tourists visit your community and have the potential of viewing your mural. If your project involves installing a wayside or highway marker, the North Carolina Department of Transportation has a website that hosts traffic volume maps so you can figure out the annual average daily traffic for a specific year at specific points on North Carolina roads. Participation and access. How is your project being inclusive? Are you telling a narrative that has historically received little attention? Are you performing outreach into underserved communities? Remember that if you accept this grant award, your program must be made free of charge to the public. You cannot charge an admission fee. So tell us in 500 words or less how your project is serving as a community anchor. Now, to support participation and access, A250 North Carolina has themes including a gathering of voices and when are we us. We absolutely welcome and encourage diverse narratives, but remember that it must relate somehow to the birth, growth, or evolution of America. Longevity and impact. We want to know what happens to your project after grant funds run out. Your grant request may be to provide supplies for an event, and once that event is over, you are done. That is perfectly acceptable. We just want to know that. If you are creating a mural, how will you maintain the artwork for years to come? And if you're piloting a program, is there a plan in place to continue the program into the future? If you're hosting something online, will your organization continue to host that indefinitely? We are looking for the lifespan of your project and whether it will continue impacting the public even after the grant is over. Partnerships. Will you be working with other organizations to increase your reach? This is not required, and some projects are not conducive to partnerships. But if you do have partnerships, we want to know about them and what the qualifications are for those other organizations. Remember that you're limited to 250 words or less, so we don't need to see a lengthy explanation, just a succinct statement on why you chose the partners you did and how they will help. Don't just list organizations who vaguely support the concept of your project. List organizations who will actually have a role in your project implementation. Your project timeline. The purpose of a project timeline is to help reviewers understand the sequence of events and when those outputs can be expected. It also helps reviewers get a sense of whether an appropriate amount of time has been allocated to your project. As you're writing the proposal, it will also force you to think about whether you are promising too much, whether your goals are reasonable, and whether you have enough staff to complete all tasks. If you are taking on too much, the reviewers will see that and not fund your project. Show every step of the process, beginning with the award date. Every deliverable mentioned in your goals and objectives should be accounted for in your timeline. Cross-check your goals and objectives with your timeline, and also cross-check these sections with your budget and justification to make sure you have included enough funds for all your deliverables. Your budget justification. The biggest tip is to check your math to make sure your budget totals correctly. The budget template will not auto-calculate, so this is very important. The maximum a county can request is $10,000 and it does not require a match. The maximum a nonprofit can request is $30,000 and it does require a match of 10% for projects based in Tier 1 counties and 15% for projects based in Tiers 2 and 3 counties. Matches can be or in kind, meaning you can use the value of project staff salary and fringe benefits that are already being paid through your organization's operating budget. Explain how you have calculated your estimates. For travel, use the state of North Carolina's per diem rate. But if you're using supplies, let us know that you found a quote on Amazon or Staples. If you are using a contractor, let us know that you got a quote. We want to know that costs are accurate and reasonable and not made up. That concludes the tutorial. If you have additional questions, please contact Dan Bros at dan.brosz@dncr.nc.gov or call him directly at 919-814-6633. The application, as well as detailed instructions, can be found on the website at America250.nc.gov.grants. Thank you again for your interest.